Hey, hi guys, I'm Naval Yamal. So in this video, I'm going to explain you about the iterative statements or called as iterative statements. We are going to see about for loop and the while loop. Let us see what is iterative statements first. So if we want to execute a group of statements multiple times, then then we go for iterative statements. So very simple definition. So if you want to execute the group of statements, suppose you have 1 2 3 4 5 lines of code, and if you want to execute that multiple times, if you want to execute 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, then we go for the iterative statements. So Python supports two types of iterative statements. First is your for loop, and second is your while loop. So we have discussed that we do not have a switch and we do not have a do while also in Python. We have only two types of loops, that is for loop and while loop in Python. So before we start, let us see about the for loop, like when to execute or when to use a for loop. So if you want to execute some action for every element present in it, then we go for loop. So let me write it in this way. If we want to execute some action for every element present in sequence, it may not be sequence every time, it can be anything. It can be the string or collection of any other data type, then we go for for loop. Okay, so every element, if you want to print every element inside the sequence or every element inside the string, every element inside the collection, then we go for loop. So let me show you a simple example. Suppose let me take a string and let me write Python here, and here if I say print s, so your s will be printed as Python and the data type of this s is a string. But what if you want to print each and every element that is inside this string, that I want to print p separate, y separate, t separate, h separate, then we go for the for loop. So yeah, you can see this output. Now let me show you how we can do that. So the syntax for loop, for, then you need to take any variable. So you can take a variable name. Let me take a variable I, you can take j, you can take any variable. For I in, so for is a keyword, I is a variable name, in you can take the sequence here like s. Now what is s? S is nothing but a string, and Python is stored inside the s. So if you are taking a for loop, at the end we are using a colon here, then once you enter it, automatically you will get an indentation, because whatever we are writing inside this for loop, that will be considered as a body for this for. So I'll write print. So I'm going to print this I here, I, because so whatever is there inside this s, that is stored inside this I, and I want to print I. Okay, so you need to understand this for loop very carefully, and you need to understand the execution process of this for, then everything becomes very simple. So let me just run this. Now you can see every element inside this string is printed. So first P is printed, then your cursor moves to the next line, Y is printed, your cursor moves to the next line, and T is printed, and so on. Now just think, instead of I, if I give S, what happens? Just think for 1 second. So if I run this, what is S? S is nothing but Python, but that is inside the for loop. That is inside a for loop. So it will print this Python for 6 times, because there are 6 letters in this Python. So if I run this, you can see Python, 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 and so on. So how many letters you are taking? Every letter will be printed in this way. So let me write I here. Let me execute this, and let me take this to the next level here. Now if I write print S, now can you guess the output? What will happen? So first I'm printing I. So after printing I, the next line is print S. So what I will print? I will print the first element, that is P. Then when the cursor moves to the next line, you have a print statement, that is S. So P, then Python, then Y, then Python, then T, then Python, then H, then Python, and so on. So let me execute this. Now you can see P, Python, Y, Python, T, Python, and so on. Suppose if I execute this print statement outside the for loop, I'm not taking inside the for loop, I have removed the indentation. Now can you guess the output, guys? So first this for loop will execute, and inside that we have I. So it will execute Python with every element or each element in this sequence, and then you get this print. Let me execute this. Now you can see Python in this way, Python, and at the end you are getting this Python. So this is the example for using in a string. You can take any other data types also to check. For example, if I take a list, so let me take a list, define a list, 10 comma 20 comma something like this, SQL Azure. Again, let me take 10, repeated value, duplicate values, everything will be accepted in list. So let me print this. So this is a data type of list, and you can see the output. Now what I will do, for a new variable name, let me take a J, for J in L. So your L is nothing but your list of things. I want to print every element that is inside the list. So I have taken an indentation here. So once you enter, automatically you will get an indentation. Then you just use print. Now tell me, shall I print L or shall I print J? Exactly. We have to print J, because that every element which was present in L now got stored in J. So if I print J here, now you will see the output. Every element will be printed from that list. So you can see the output remains same if you are using a string, or if you are using a list data type or a tuple data type, any other data type also. But we have seen in the range. Let me show you, you can use in the range also. Suppose if you want to use range, or if you want to print the sequence of numbers from 0 to 10, so I can take a variable r equal to range. I'll just specify a number 10, and for J in R, let me print J. So we have already done this. If you have not seen this, so I request you to please go and watch the recordings of the range function, how this range function works. We have seen that. So you can now notice that every element inside this range starting from 0 to 9 will be stored inside this J, and we are printing it J. So this for loop is very important when it comes to the sequential order. If you are printing a patterns, that is very important. So we are going to see about the patterns now. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Please subscribe to my channel. Keep learning.